Hello, this is English in Minutes. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Rob.
So, Rob, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a crowded room, maybe at a party or a cafe, and still felt completely alone?
Actually, yes, I think most people have experienced that at some point. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? You're surrounded by others, but somehow you feel disconnected.
Exactly, and that's what we're exploring today, why modern life makes us feel lonely. It's a topic that affects millions of people around the world, yet we don't talk about it nearly enough.
Before we dive in, let's start with a quick question for our listeners. We'll give you the answer later in the episode. Here's the question. According to recent studies, what percentage of adults in developed countries report feeling lonely on a regular basis? Is it A, 10%, B, 30%, or C, 50%? Think about it and we'll reveal the answers soon.
Now, loneliness is something humans have always experienced, but researchers say it's becoming more common in modern society. And that's quite paradoxical, isn't it? We live in the most connected era in human history, with smartphones, social media, and instant messaging, yet somehow we feel more isolated than ever.
Right. Let's explain that word, paradoxical. It means something that seems contradictory or opposite to what you'd expect, but it's actually true. For example, it's paradoxical that having more ways to communicate makes us feel less connected.
That's a great explanation. So, what's causing this modern loneliness epidemic? Well, there are several factors. One major reason is how our communities have changed. In the past, people lived in close-knit neighborhoods. They knew their neighbors. They gathered regularly for meals or celebrations.
But today, many of us barely know the people living next door. We move frequently for work, we spend long hours commuting, and when we finally get home, we're often too exhausted to socialize.
Another factor is technology. Now, don't get me wrong, technology has brought amazing benefits, but it's also changed how we interact. We text instead of calling, we scroll through social media instead of meeting face to face, and these digital interactions, while convenient, often feel shallow.
Let's explain that word, shallow. In this context, shallow means lacking depth or real meaning. It's the opposite of deep or meaningful. For example, a shallow conversation might be about the weather, while a deep conversation explores your feelings or dreams.
Exactly. Social media can be particularly tricky. We see carefully edited versions of everyone's lives, perfect vacations, happy families, successful careers, and we start comparing ourselves. This creates what psychologists call a facade.
Facade. That's an important word. Let's explain that. A facade is a false appearance that hides the true situation. Originally, it meant the front of a building, but now we use it to describe when someone or something appears different from reality. For example, she maintained a facade of happiness, but inside she was struggling.
That's right. On social media, everyone shows a facade of perfect lives, but behind that facade, many people are dealing with stress, anxiety, and yes, loneliness.
There's also the issue of work culture. Many jobs now require us to be always available, always connected. We check emails late at night, we take work calls during dinner. This constant busyness leaves little time for genuine relationships.
And here's something interesting. A study from Harvard University found that the quality of our relationships is one of the strongest predictors of happiness and health, yet we're investing less time in nurturing those relationships.
To nurture something means to care for it and help it grow. Let's explain that word. Nurture means to take care of and encourage the development of something. For example, parents nurture their children by providing love and support. Or you can nurture a friendship by spending quality time together.
So we're not nurturing our relationships enough. And there's another interesting aspect here. Modern life has made us more transient. That's our next vocabulary word. Transient means temporary or constantly moving from place to place. For example, he lived a transient lifestyle, never staying in one city for more than a year.
Right, we're more transient than previous generations.
We move cities for education or work. We change jobs frequently. This transient nature makes it harder to build lasting connections. Just when you start feeling settled, you or your friends might move away.
Now, let's talk about solutions, because understanding the problem is important, but knowing what we can do about it is even better. Experts suggest several practical steps.
First, we need to prioritize face-to-face interaction. This means making deliberate choices. Instead of texting your friend, invite them for coffee. Instead of scrolling through your phone during lunch, have a real conversation with a colleague.
Let's explain that word, deliberate. Deliberate means done intentionally or on purpose, with careful thought. For example, she made a deliberate choice to wake up early and exercise. It wasn't accidental, it was planned and intentional.
That's right. Second, consider joining groups or communities based on your interests. It could be a book club, a sports team, or a volunteer organization. These regular gatherings help you build consistent connections.
Third, practice vulnerability. Now, this might sound scary, but it's actually quite powerful. Vulnerability means being open and honest about your feelings, even when it feels uncomfortable. Let's explain that word. Vulnerability is the quality of being open to emotional exposure or harm. For example, showing vulnerability means admitting when you're struggling instead of pretending everything is fine.
I know that can be difficult, but when you show vulnerability, you give others permission to do the same. And that's how real connections form. That's how we move past the shallow interactions and the facades we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. And here's something to think about. What's one relationship in your life that you could nurture more? Maybe it's a family member you haven't called in a while, or an old friend you've lost touch with. Take a moment to consider that.
Good question. Now, let's reveal the answer to our earlier quiz. We asked what percentage of adults in developed countries report feeling lonely regularly. The answer is B, 30%. Nearly 1 in 3 adults experiences regular loneliness. That's a significant number, and it shows this isn't just an individual problem, it's a societal one.
It really is. Before we finish, let's recap all the vocabulary we've learned today. This will help reinforce these useful words.
First, we had paradoxical. Remember, this means something that seems contradictory but is actually true. It's paradoxical that more communication technology makes us feel less connected.
Second, shallow. This means lacking depth or real meaning. We use it to describe surface-level interactions that don't satisfy our need for genuine connection.
Third, facade, a false appearance that hides the truth. On social media, people often present a facade of perfect lives.
Fourth, nurture. To care for something and help it grow, we need to nurture our relationships by investing time and attention in them.
Fifth, transient, temporary or constantly moving. Modern life is more transient, making it harder to build lasting friendships.
Fix, deliberate, done intentionally with careful thought. We need to make deliberate choices to prioritize real human connection.
And finally, vulnerability, being open and honest about your feelings, even when it's uncomfortable. Practicing vulnerability helps create deeper, more meaningful relationships.
So there you have it, 7 practical vocabulary words and some insights into why modern life can feel lonely and what we can do about it.
Remember, recognizing loneliness isn't a sign of weakness, it's human, and taking small steps to connect with others can make a real difference.
Thanks for listening to English in Minutes. Keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep connecting.
See you next time.